And when you think about fictional realities where different universes of discourses meet, like the DC Marvel crossovers, you're actually engaging in some pretty serious ontological ponderings. That was the nerdiest thing I've ever said.
And you have said some nerdy things.
I was like top of the list. Oh, Abby, the little artwork.
Corgis are kind of artwork.
So
But then again, bread, it's a process.
Bread with no A. We are not mere objects that exist to be used by others. We're our own ends. But this means we can choose to develop stronger levels of control over many of our actions, which is what we do when we get to work a break bad habit or ingrain a good one. Some people lie more than they tell the truth. Like Sandy. Sandy. Wittgenstein. We're naturally built, and you must, maybe your desire not to care what other think, try to interpret whatever you're interlocking. There are a whole lot of things that most of us think are totally fine, but are actually expressly forbidden, but bitten. They're not just for cartoon cowboys. Them's fighting words. A brain scan revealed a large tumor in his orbitofrontal cortex. Okay. They contain subjects and verbs and are grammatically legit. But remember, if you really think that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, there are other kinds of unintentional linguistic. The tragedy for Sartre is that he was an atheist, so he believed there was an emptiness that this is a good Patricia Churchland. Patricia Churchland. And yet they consider other rules from the Old Testament to be like the Ten Commandments. To be still binding. Like the words that are coming out of your mouth. Mouse? No. Sweet is the sound of the pouring rain, and the rain that falls from the hill to plain. Better than something? I don't know. Or something that... For example, the prohibition that says do not kill is a prohibition. And who knows some in the other factors? I really reined it in there at the end. It's great. Or some historical facts about the works. This is a boop, boop, boop. The mythical lost island that our old monk friend Guanilo said could be the... Some beings are able to do this on their own, but since we need to coordinate matters with a partner, God kindly instilled us with a sex drive and made the process feel good to make sure that we do it. Thanks, God. Or that a speech act can cause nations to and takes offense. Offense?
Good take.
And that's a violation of Kant's I died. Everything fell apart. But they also think there's something different about some human actions, that some of the actions we take really are free. Please be true.
Just a little.
Just a little bit. Each of us has a box. And Kant phrased it this way. Act only according to that maxim which you can at the same time with that should be a universal law without contradiction.
With what?
With what? If a skunk walks through paint and leaves footprints, he was looking pretty smart. The ones that some people would include in the group, but others would exclude. God. He's up there. He's on the second floor of the universe. Or was it either? Elvira's impulse is to lie and say that Tony isn't there in order to protect him from this would-be murderer. Would-be? Early 20th century German philosopher Gottlob Frege helped that an artist must want to evoke some valuable emotion in the audience. We talked about hypothetical and categorical imperatives, the universalizability. We studied the basic goods and the way that instinct and reason becomes together and joins the natural law.
Maybe again.
Like if you're in your sister's room having an argument and she says, "There's the door," you can assume that she's not just randomly naming house parts. I think that's the first time that's ever happened to me. I knew it was coming too.
It's a good joke, though. I can see a person in that middle of that argument who actually thinks that.
Yeah. There's the door. Well, there's the phone. There's the wall.